How is David's mourning for Abner a rebuke of Joab? This is the question we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of 2 Samuel on Walking Through the Bible. Today we're going to be discussing 2 Samuel chapter 3, verses 31 to 39. Before we do that, let's read the passage. If you have a Bible with you, turn to 2 Samuel chapter 3, verse 31. But if you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So 2 Samuel chapter 3, beginning at verse 31. Then David said to Joab and to all the people who were with him, "Tear your clothes, gird yourselves with sackcloth, and mourn for Abner." And King David followed the coffin. So they buried Abner in Hebron. And the king lifted up his voice and wept at the grave of Abner, and all the people wept. And the king sang a lament over Abner, and said, "Should Abner die as a fool dies? Your hands were not bound, nor your feet put into fetters. As a man falls before wicked men, so you fell." And then all the people wept over him again. And when all the people came to persuade David to eat food while it was still day, David took an oath, saying, "God do so to me, and more also, if I taste bread or anything else till the sun goes down." Now all the people took note of it, and it pleased them, since whatever the king did pleased all the people. For all the people and all Israel understood that day that it had not been the king's intent to kill Abner the son of Ner. Then the king said to his servants, "Do you not know that a prince and a great man has fallen this day in Israel? And I am weak today, though anointed king, and these men, the sons of Zeruiah, are too harsh for me. The Lord shall repay the evildoer according to his wickedness." In our last lesson, we had Joab killing Abner because Abner had killed Asahel, Joab's brother. Now, Abner didn't murder Asahel in cold blood. It was the result of battle, for which a different standard should have been observed. At the very least, Abner should have faced a tribunal for what he had done, but was killed outside the gates of a city of refuge without ever knowing that his life was in danger at the hands of Joab. Now, of course, we know that Abner had switched sides in the struggle between David and Ishbosheth, Saul's son, and was prepared to bring along the rest of Israel to David's side. This didn't matter to Joab. What mattered was that he settled the score between him and Abner, using Abner's suspected deception against David as a cover for his treachery. But of course, Joab's impetuousness left David with a problem. Abner was the commander of Ishbosheth's army, and Joab was the commander of David's. It is going to look like David had ordered Joab to kill Abner, and thus any talks of peace may have been off the table. Thus David, wanting to show that it was not the case, he arranged a funeral for Abner, and fit for someone who died honorably. David told Joab and all the people who would be with them to tear their clothes, dress in sackcloth, and mourn for Abner. David telling Joab and his men to do this immediately showed Joab who was in control, and exhibited David's displeasure at what Joab had done. It would have knocked Joab down a few pegs, in that he now had to mourn not only for the one he killed, but the one who killed his brother. Abner was buried in Hebron, where he died, and at the funeral not only did David publicly weep over Abner's grave, but he sang a lament to Abner at the funeral as well. This lament was another stab at Joab, for in it David says that Abner didn't die as a fool, that is to say, an unbeliever at the hand of God. Nor did Abner fall as a criminal, one deserving of death. No, Abner fell before wicked men, meaning that Abner was murdered. Those words must have been painful for Joab to hear, for not only was David calling him a murderer, but he was calling him a murderer of the man who killed his brother. Joab could have very well thought that he was only doing what the law allowed him to do in Numbers 35 as the avenger of blood. David, on the other hand, had judged that Joab was wrong and had acted improperly concerning Abner. Why then didn't David have Joab killed as a likely murderer? Well, probably because Joab and his brother Abishai were still quite useful to David in the army, and also likely because Joab had quite a following in that army. At that time, David probably wasn't powerful enough to overcome that. David's strong rebuke of Joab would suffice for now. But David did call upon God to repay the evildoer according to his wickedness, just as he said something similar before King Saul in 1 Samuel 26. In this we see David's patience, as well as his faith in God to do what God wanted to do in his time. In that moment, though, David still had the task of uniting the kingdom of Israel under him, a task that he needed Joab and his army to help do. Now David's grief was so strong that he wouldn't eat anything. The people tried to get him to do so, but David swore an oath that he wouldn't eat until sundown because of Abner's death. When the people saw this, they took note of it, and they understood that it had not been David's intention for Abner to have been killed. So with Abner now dead, what would happen next in the rivalry between David and Ishbosheth? We'll find out, the Lord willing, in the next lesson. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of 2 Samuel chapter 4, verses 1 to 12, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.